What if what's killing your tech career isn't AI, inexperience, or falling behind, but something much quieter? A misalignment between your skills and the system that you're actually pointing them at. And once you spot it, you'll understand why younger devs seem to be sprinting past you, even though you have 10 times the experience. I'm Bago, and like many of you, I started off as a junior developer. In just 3 years, I rose to a manager level position and then quit to co-found AB Analytics, a software consulting company, scaling it to 7 figures. Now, as a founder of Code to CEO, I help countless mid to senior level software engineers just like you do the exact same thing. By the end of this video, you will learn exactly how to stay ahead in tech and what to focus on to succeed as a mid to senior level software engineer. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. Mid to senior level devs, this is the exact roadmap that you're going to use to actually not only save your tech career, but completely leave everybody else in the dust. Because these are all the steps you're going to need to follow to actually get to where you want to get to. And understand one thing, you've already won. You're not behind, you never have been. All you've been doing this entire time is holding on to leverage, which we will now learn how to inject properly to get to where you want to get to. But why did everything even happen in the first place? Why you are not behind, but why do you think you're actually behind? Well, let's get into it. When you first started coding, it probably felt exciting, like solving a cool little puzzle. But after, being in industry for over 5 years, some of you 10, 15, 20 years, that spark can fizzle out. And it will be replaced by this running sense of just constantly being on this hamster wheel, being on this treadmill, on and on. You might be working long hours under constant pressure, dealing with messy code bases, all while a chronic tiredness creeps in that sleep doesn't really quite fix no matter how many hours of sleep you get. And statistics actually show this. Specifically, 4 in 5, so 80% of developers experience burnout sometime during their career. And the passion that you've had for coding fades away and it becomes replaced by cynicism and a sense of detachment to your job, that is. So it's not necessarily just only about feeling tired, as if you're going to go on a vacation for a month, come back, and everything's going to be handy dandy. It literally affects everything, your motivation, your ability to focus, and ultimately the quality of your work that you do at your day job. And you may also feel like you're scrambling to keep up with the next new framework, adding another layer of stress on top of that, especially with all the AI stuff that's happening, right? You're probably tired of keeping up with all the AI hype. Meanwhile, the stability and the challenges that you once loved start to feel less fulfilling, as if the standard corporate path isn't quite sustainable in the long term. And that's your mind and body actually telling you that something needs to change. For many seasoned veterans, this burnout creeps in alongside hitting what I call the senior engineer ceiling, which means that promotions slow down, office politics starts to ramp up, and you feel stuck despite your deep technical skills, and you feel like you're not nearly growing as much. You're not contributing to society. And you see smarter ways to do things, but bureaucracy or limited creative control means that you're merely implementing somebody else's vision, like a cog in a machine, rather than a true innovator that you as a software engineer are. And sometimes it could be a toxic team culture or just working on projects that don't really align with your values or goals. And all of this, you pair it with a good salary and you get what's known as golden handcuffs. And ultimately, it really boils down to a very simple innate desire for real autonomy, control over your work, control over your own schedule, and the impact that you actually have on the world around you. These 3 things. And these are not minor frustrations. They're valid reasons why the traditional path starts feeling less and less rewarding. And when you see this happening in real time, and you see other people, let's say 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds on Twitter making these multi-million-dollar companies, you start losing that same exact spark that you had inside you because you're like, well, what am I doing all of this for, right? What's the end goal here? But all hope is not lost, because let us get to our unique advantage, specifically for the mid to senior level devs. The 9 to 5 isn't cutting it, which means you need to do something else to succeed. And it actually starts with understanding what I call the unique advantage. And these specific things that really separate you from pretty much almost everybody else on the planet trying to start something, be it a business or whatever the case. And these advantages fall into 3 buckets. Your experience, so all the technical and non-technical skills and knowledge that you've gained throughout your life. Your network, so all the people you know professionally and personally. and your location, the opportunities specific to where you are, even online communities relate to your own specific area. And most people aren't really even aware of their own advantages, or they seriously undervalue them. So step one is recognizing what your unique advantage is. The reason I want to bring this up is because you've probably been, if you've been on Twitter, you've probably heard of it. Roy, the creator of interviewquota.co, the famous lead code type of thing that went viral, where he got a job at Amazon using this, like cheating on the interview exam. He made about $28,000 a month, I think last month, in revenue. So if you took a look at this, you would imagine, wow, 20-year-old, highly successful software engineer, must be a 10x programmer, absolute genius level, knows exactly what he's doing. But it turns around, since he built his stuff mainly on Cursor, from what I understand, he quote-unquote vibe coded the entire thing. Somebody actually found out that he pushed his entire environment variables with the actual API credentials that work on GitHub in a public repository, right? And people could access it and essentially get the entire thing for free. And he made an entire post about it. And there's something I want to highlight here, and it's at the end right here. If you're a follower who thinks I was some genius savant hacker who is just smarter than FANG engineers, sorry to burst your bubble, feel free to unfollow. I'm some kid whose life got turned upside down these past 2 months and is now realizing that I'd rather be honest and have some impenetrable internet persona. So I'm not going to get into the details of who he is, how he said it. I'm not talking about his character. More than anything, I'm talking about the possibility of what he was able to accomplish, right? So you as a senior engineer seeing this, somebody younger than you with less experience than you, a quote-unquote worse software engineer than you, was able to accomplish this. And you know for a fact, if you were in this position, you would never, ever make a rookie mistake such as this, right? Publishing the environment variables to a public repository for everybody to see. So the only real difference between the mid to level senior developers right now stuck in a 9-to-5 environment and this person right here that made $228,000 last month, which over 90% of it is pretty much profit margins. Technically speaking, you're better off than them. The only thing is he was able to utilize his unique advantage to spot an opportunity and capitalize on it, right? So he was able to utilize his experience, network, and location to properly capitalize on an opportunity and get to where he got to and completely change his life in 2 months. So let's get now into the specific details as to what the unique advantage is so you can understand it a little bit more. Let's start out with experience. I'm going to start out with experience because experience is more than just your coding skills, your technical knowledge. It's your entire toolkit. Because when we talk about experience, generally before you've probably thought about your coding skills, your resume, and sure, your technical skills do matter, such as designing complex systems, debugging tough problems, right, mastering specific technologies. They're all incredibly valuable, but it's only part of the picture, not the entire picture itself. Your years in the professional world, having also forced non-technical skills, also think about communicating intricate ideas clearly to managers or clients, collaborating effectively within an actual team, navigating disagreements, solving problems creatively under pressure, mentoring juniors, right, that you had or you took care of. All these things play a role into it. And don't forget that you have general life skills too, especially those with families and kids, raising kids. The resilience you build handling these stressful situations, these deadlines, the negotiation skills you pick up even from something as simple as going to a car dealership to buy a car or buying a house for the family to live in. And even the budgeting skills from managing personal finances, all of these are relevant to you. And most engineers undervalue this complete package, right? And your unique combination of the technical depth, the practical non-technical abilities, and hard-won life skills forms an extremely powerful toolkit that only you and you specifically can utilize in entrepreneurship, right? And just the exact same way we approach experience, let's now take a look at your network. Your network is probably the most underutilized unique advantage. Why? Because most people feel awkward asking for help, especially from contacts they haven't spoken to in a while. And we underestimate how many people are actually willing, even happy, to help somebody take a bold step like starting a business. But you have to make it easy for them. Don't just send the vague, hey, I started a business, do you know anybody that can be helpful? Be more specific. I'm focusing on solving X pain point for X type of company. Do you know anybody that I should talk to? And offer value back. Make an intro for them, offer your expertise, finder's fee, if that's what it takes. Find a way to give them value. And by value, I don't only mean monetary value, even just maybe hanging out with them, chatting with them, getting them a cup of coffee, that is still value. So start with those closest to you, ask directly, and build outwards towards more and more people. And treat your network like a garden that you need to tend to constantly and cultivate respectively. You can't just sit and forget about it. Last but not least, let's take a look at location. Location matters a lot more than you think it does. So don't overlook it, right? Because, let me put this there, perfect. Because where you are physically located essentially determines the opportunities and resources that will be available to you. And a lot of people don't quite realize the resources that they have available to them. So you want to think about the industries prominent in your city. Is it entertainment, aerospace, healthcare? What is it? Are there any local businesses in these sectors that desperately need tech modernization or specialized skills that you possess? One example would be AI integration into these businesses, right? Are there maybe any local entrepreneur groups, accelerators, or university connections that you could tap into, right? And if you plan to operate remotely, your location is still going to matter. The cost of living will allow for a longer financial runway, right, compared to pricier tech hubs. Maybe you can leverage online communities specific to tech or your specific niche, right? So you want to look closely at your specific geographic context, your specific city that you're in, and understand what unique access to talent, events, markets, or even just a particular community vibe does it offer. And you need to find and utilize that local edge. So now that we understand why we are where we are and why we're not behind and what we're going to use to actually get ahead, let's start getting into the specific details. So this is all about now finding pain and choosing our vehicle to actually go ahead and get out of the specific rut that we're in and get ahead and make a lot more money. And essentially at the end of the day, we're looking for these three things, right? Control over our work, our schedule, and the impact that we have, all while making a lot more money than we ever did before. To do that, the number one thing we need to focus on is being resourceful, because resourcefulness is the secret weapon to you accomplishing everything that I'm talking about here in this video. Because having great experience and a solid network is all fantastic, but the real magic ingredient, right on top of the location, the thing that really ties everything together is resourcefulness, okay? This is the core entrepreneurial skill that you need to actually develop. Creatively using everything you have available to you, your skills, your contacts, free online tools, your specific situation, to overcome challenges and make progress, especially when resources like time and money might be limited. And at its core, it's really about having a figure it out attitude and not giving up. And instead of saying, I can't get clients because I don't have a marketing budget, you start asking, how can I leverage my network, location, and experience to get my very first few clients through either direct outreach, demonstrating clear value without having to spend money on ads? Or instead of saying, I can't build my full product vision without hiring engineers, you ask, can I validate the core idea first with a simpler service offering, or use off-the-shelf tools creatively to deliver the key outcome manually before investing heavily in custom code? So if you cultivate this type of a mindset, always looking for creative solutions and ways to leverage your assets, right, it's a lot more important than almost any other factor. And notice how I said leverage your assets, which means in order to be resourceful, you need to understand what resources you have. You need to do a complete audit of all the assets, quote unquote, that you have, right? I'm not only talking about monetary assets. After that, now we need to start hunting for pain, not just quote unquote cool ideas, because especially in tech, that's what we've all heard. Be it on Money, Twitter, or wherever the hell, everybody's talking about a cool idea, build a cool idea. But no, that's backwards. Strong businesses are built by solving a painful problem that people are actively trying to get rid of that specific problem. They're looking for a solution. And I want you to think about this for a second. You can ignore a tiny scratch that you get on your hand, but you'll rush to the dentist for a very extremely painful and throbbing toothache, right? So you need to find those business toothaches, quote unquote, in the real environment. Where are companies losing significant money because of inefficient processes? What technical bottlenecks are slowing down their growth or frustrating their teams? What risks are they exposed to that worry them constantly? You want to focus your energy on identifying substantial pain points where your help can actually provide a major relief. Now, that's good and all, but where do we actually find these pain points? Well, we use our unique advantage. So look at your experience. What drove you crazy in your past jobs? What broken systems or dumb workarounds did you constantly complain about or have to fix? These are all prime candidates because you understand them deeply. Then talk to your network. Don't just ask if they have any ideas. Ask very specific questions. What's the most inefficient process your team deals with? or what is the biggest bottleneck at your current business. And you want to listen for frustration and specifically friction, where time or money or both ideally is being impacted. And of course, don't forget about your location. Look for local businesses, Chamber of Commerce events, and the simple Google search will get you all your results anyways, right? Just search up Chamber of Commerce in the specific city you're in. You'll see what that's about. Search up any startup events, any tech events, any business meetings that might happen even on Eventbrite. You'll find a lot of options there on Google as well. Look for any law firms, hospitals, med spas, construction companies, anything in your local city that you can go to and just ask about these problems. Don't be afraid to go and talk to them. Use your advantage. You're in that city for a reason, right? They're local to you. Use that advantage. And one other thing before we get into the actual nitty-gritty details of how we're going to sell and all this stuff, we need to understand selling the after picture, right? The outcome. Because especially as software engineers, we have a very hard time associating ourselves with our code and our product that we're building. But understand that clients do not buy your code, your consulting hours, or your SaaS features. They buy the direct results, the better future state that your work enables them to have. So understand, they're never buying into your product or your service, they're buying out of their specific pain point. So you need to paint a very clear picture of that after state, that desired situation where their pain is simply gone. And instead of saying, I offer automation services, you need to say, imagine getting an extra 10 hours back in your week because repetitive tasks are handled automatically. Instead of saying, I build secure APIs, you say you can connect your systems confidently without worrying about data breaches. And you want to focus relentlessly on the positive outcomes that you specifically deliver for your specific ideal clients. And once you have that, we then can talk about our business model or our vehicle in a sense. Once you know the pain point and the desired outcome, you need to choose how you'll deliver that transformation. And this, as I mentioned, is your vehicle. So think about which vehicle makes the most sense for the journey that you want to go on. There's usually three types. We have service-based, essentially using your expertise directly for each client, consulting, custom development, agency work, and this is good for complex problems that you need a little bit more of a personal hands-on approach for. You can build a product. This is what everybody's familiar with, a SaaS, right? So be it a plugin, a tool, whatever the case, and it solves a common problem repeatedly. You build it once, it solves it for eons to come. It's a lot more scalable, but it's also harder to start with. Or you can do a hybrid model, offer a service package using specific tools, either tools you build or other people's tools. Or you consult and sell a related product. And this blends the approaches. My specific company uses a hybrid model. It's what I find to be the most efficient to work with, the easiest to get clients with initially. It is quite difficult to scale past a certain figure because it is at the end of the day more dependent on human labor and having the team to be able to pull everything off. Whereas a SaaS, you don't really need nearly as many people on the team, right? But it is much easier to charge higher ticket items for, getting clients to work with, and just making a lot of money in the short term as well. So all in all, I just want you to forget the SaaS curse, okay? If it doesn't fit you, don't build a SaaS. It's not like you're only forced to build a SaaS as a software engineer. Get that out of your mind, right? You need to ask yourself, which plan best uses your specific skills, right, such as your network, location, and experience? So which plan best uses your unique advantage? Which plan delivers the outcome best for your ideal customer? For example, if you're working with elderly people, they're probably not going to be too familiar with a SaaS. So you might want to go with a service or at least a hybrid model, right? So keep your customer in mind always. And which gets you paid the fastest with the least amount of risk, and which feels right for your specific life goals. If you don't want an astronomically sized company like Google or like Facebook, you just want something that's netting you, cash flowing you $2 to $3 million a year, you can go with a hybrid or a service-based business and do that very easily without too much work. But if you want to scale to billions and billions of dollars, you're probably going to have to go with a product-based business. So choose the model that gives you the most leverage and is right for you, for your specific goals in life, which you want to achieve. Now, with that, we can move on to the nitty-gritty details, and that is using your leverage and actually creating an irresistible offer to get your first few clients. So first and foremost, let's talk about leveraging your network, because the best way you're going to get your first few clients is by utilizing your network. Forget about spamming strangers on the internet, creating blog posts, going on Reddit, going on Twitter. Forget about all of that. Start with the people that you already know, like, or trust to some specific degree, right? You want to be resourceful and strategic. And here's essentially the big three in terms of your network. You have your inner circle network, your professional network, and your extended network. So your inner circle, it's essentially reaching out to close friends, family, and any trusted colleagues. These are people you know well and can easily approach for support, feedback, and even referrals down the line if you need to. Now, they may not always be directly in your target industry, but they can connect you with other people. And keep this in mind. Do not be afraid to ask for big favors for people in your inner circle. These are the people closest to you. I'm not going to say they're obligated to help you, but if somebody were to be obligated to help you, it will be those in your inner circle. So take note of who helped you and pay them back tenfold later once you're able to. Then we have our professional network. So these are just former coworkers, clients if applicable, and acquaintances. And these are people you've either worked with or just met professionally who have direct insights or connections in your specific field or industry. Once again, they can provide referrals, introductions, or potentially become clients themselves. And last but not least, the extended network. So individuals you've met through events, social media, mutual connections, people who aren't really as close to you, but are still valuable contacts. I mean, these people can be anywhere from influencers, industry leaders, people you've engaged with in communities, or even the shop owner down the street that you usually buy from, right? They can help you amplify your message and connect you with potential clients through their own networks, and sometimes in rare cases, become a client themselves. Once you start reaching out to these folks, you need to have an ironclad, irresistible offer such that if they are interested, they become a client like that. So your offer needs to be incredibly clear and compelling. In fact, it needs to be so good that people feel stupid saying no. You probably heard that from Alex Hormozy. It has to connect emotionally by addressing people's pain and make perfect logical sense as a solution. Because remember, people are not rational people, right? Human beings in general, we are not rational. We might think we're rational, but we're not rational. So we don't only buy from a logical perspective, but we also buy from an emotional perspective. So our irresistible offer has to have both quantitative and qualitative features to be able to both target the emotional side of things and the actual logical side of things. And we want to build it piece by piece, have a clear result. So what exactly will they get, right? For example, saving 10 hours every week with AI automation. Acknowledging their pain, show you understand their current frustration. That's the emotional. So clear result, logical, acknowledge pain, emotional. Your actual fix, briefly explain how you get them the actual result. This is a little bit of both. Why you specifically, mention your relevant experience. Once again, a little bit of both. Safety net, offer guarantee. So you don't pay a cent if you don't get the results, whatever the case, right? A little bit of both. And then easy next steps, tell them exactly what to do. So click here to talk. Make the thing as frictionless for them as possible. Acknowledge them. Build it piece by piece. And always remember to target both the emotional side and the logical side. Now, when you're doing this, when you're crafting your offer, please stay away from technical jargon. As software engineers, we love the technical stuff. We want to talk about code libraries and server settings and how much from a technical standpoint they're going to benefit. But please talk about what matters to them. Saving money, making more money, saving time, reducing stress, or avoiding risks in general. Use simple language and speak their language. Now, unless they're a techie, of course, this is an exception to the rule. But if they're not a techie, then please do not talk to them like they are a techie. You need to explain the value they get from your technical skill, not necessarily the technical skill itself. So what I've seen time and time again, the number one mistake that most software engineers make, they talk with a prospect, they make it extremely tech jargon heavy, right? Whether it's about AI or whatever it is, front-end development, they put a lot of tech jargon in there. The prospect doesn't really understand what's happening. They talk, they go back and forth, maybe an MVP is created, whatever the case. Tons of time is wasted, hours wasted. Prospect is lost because he doesn't really understand what's happening. It feels like both parties are communicating with one another, but nobody's understanding what the other person is saying, and the prospect is essentially gone. Right? But what you need to do is talk with the prospect, have the value-driven talk, understand the actual pain that you're acknowledging and the solution that you're giving them, right? You're saving hours of time now because you're not going back and forth, and you close the prospect and they become a client, okay? Now you might be wondering, okay, how much am I going to charge? Before you even think about how much you're going to charge, what you need to do is get out of the hourly rate mindset, okay? Get out of the employee mindset. You need to think, how much is fixing this problem worth to the client, okay? We are all about value-driven pricing, okay? If you save them $50,000, don't you think it would be fair for them to pay you $10,000? I mean, that sounds like a great deal to me, right? So price your work based on the actual value and outcome you deliver. Set project prices or monthly fees to reflect that actual value. And remember, value is subjective, okay? There is no universal value. Value is subjective. It's what people perceive to be valuable. What you might not consider valuable and what you might, do in 2 hours and you say, oh, that's like 400 hours. Excuse me, that's $400 because that's $200, dollars per hour. That $400 maybe to you could mean $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 to somebody else, because value is subjective. It's all about perceived value. Hence, you need to understand how much time, energy, money, what is it actually you're doing for them, saving them or getting them more of it, and you charge a portion of that amount, okay? All of this in mind, there's one fundamental thing you also need to understand when it comes to client acquisition specifically, and it's what I call grabbing life by the horns. Grabbing life by the horns means refusing to settle for a path of least resistance. So instead, it's about forging a new path where you can shape both your own future and the future of the people around you. The same exact spirit applies to acquiring new clients or customers. Waiting for business to fall into your lap is a strategy that will never ever yield results. I shouldn't even put rarely, I should put never, actually. Because if somebody did get it and is lucky, I'm not going to talk about that. You have to take the initiative in this case. Pick up the phone, reach out to people on social media, host your own webinars, attend conferences, go to your local Chamber of Commerce event, talk to the people in your network, talk to the local business owner. Do whatever it takes to connect directly with the folks that you can help the most, okay? When you show people your enthusiasm and you make them feel valued, you also show them that you're serious about delivering the best possible solutions to them. And that energy is extremely infectious, okay? It creates trust and momentum that can carry you forward for eons. So seize that moment. Do not hold back and do not allow fear or doubt to tie your hands, okay? Jump into the fray, strike up conversations, set ambitious targets, and let your passion for your work actually radiate. Let people see it. And by choosing to grab life by the horns, essentially, and your client relationships, you position yourself to stand out from the crowd and attract the clients that you actually want. Clients who share your hunger for success and genuinely benefit from what you bring to the table. So let me show you a real-life example of what this looks like using 30 different people, one of which is myself. So as you all know, a majority of my clients actually came from in-person client acquisition in the very beginning. Most came from me wearing a suit and a tie and pitching businesses in person, despite me being a software engineer and not being comfortable with talking to people in person. Okay. And initially, I approached local businesses that I was already familiar with as regular customers, and I believed I could truly benefit them and that they could benefit from my services. I had my suit and a tie, my business card with my company website on a QR code on the back, and a portfolio of many case studies. And one of my most memorable approaches was actually pitching my services to a bakery that I used to go to. So the owner would always give me an extra piece of bread and pastries depending on the day. And when I would ask why, I thought he was always doing it out of his, goodwill. But he would always say that he was just going to throw it away anyway. And I thought he was kidding. He was just saying that so I don't feel bad. The problem was that the bakery couldn't get an actual accurate forecast on the demand and thus would always overproduce goods and would have to discard them at the end of the day. Okay. And realizing this after I actually talked with them, because I would just go in and buy it and never talk. And one day I decided to ask, okay, but why are you throwing it away? And I realized what it was. I realized that I could actually help them. So I pitched my services to them for free for one specific product. So we did a free demand forecast for specifically bread. And seeing the success, we did paid work for the rest of the items at the bakery. So what's the lesson here? What's the key takeaway? Opportunities are all around you every single day. Every store you walk into, every person you pass by, every single day, every single place. You just need to be sharp enough and resourceful enough to recognize them and bold enough to actually seize those opportunities. Let me bring up another example with Brian Chesky. Oops, let's go back. So Brian Chesky is the co-founder of Airbnb. And in the early days, Airbnb was actually not too successful. So bookings were sparse and the concept of renting a stranger's home was quite new and in a way weird. And Airbnb's first customers didn't come from ads or cold emails. Instead, Chesky traveled to New York City, met hosts face to face, and helped them stage and photograph their apartments to attract more guests. Think about that for a second. As a software engineer, you build Airbnb, you fly out to see your hosts in New York City, you take camera equipment and everything, you help them personally set up their spaces as a software engineer. How crazy is that when you think about it, right? The extent to which they went to help people set up spaces, right? And imagine how the hosts felt. I mean, they felt personally supported. And so they started spreading the word to other hosts and other folks that wanted to do Airbnb. And it spread like wildfire, right? And more people began listing, and that personal touch only led to better guest experiences, jumpstarting the network effect that made Airbnb what it is today, known all across the world. Put yourself in their shoes. You, a software developer, on a computer all day behind the screen, having to fly out to New York City to see your specific customers, your clients, help them set up their own houses, talk with them, engage with them, and just spend time with them, right? Completely unthinkable. Software engineer would imagine, no, I'm going to sit in the back, on my computer, do everything from here. But they went ahead and did that personally. So the lesson is, do not underestimate the value of personal outreach in the very beginning. It can really be the key to gaining your first customers and setting your business up for sustainable growth. Once again, grab life by the horns. Do what it takes you. And last but not least, Alex Ohanian, which is the co-founder of Reddit. So in the initial stages of the company, Alex actually went to college campuses, tech meetups, and conferences to talk directly to his target audience about their platform. And he would pitch Reddit as a space for open discussion and community building, encouraging potential users to adopt early. And the initial user base, which came from in-person engagement at these specific events, created what Reddit actually is today. So the initial user base not only contributed to the growth of the platform, but also drove product improvements based on feedback, because Alex would continuously talk with these users and see what he could improve on Reddit from a technical standpoint. Once again, opportunities are everywhere. Spot them, seize them, and use personal outreach to land your first customers and build lasting success. And really do what it takes. Grab life by the horns. If you have to be in the trenches, be in the trenches. Now with that comes our last piece of the puzzle, which are systems, authority, and influence. Once you're already making a little bit of money, you have your solution built, you have a few clients under your belt, it's now time to see how we're going to scale our entire operations and how we're going to set everything up properly to scale to immense figures and not have to worry about other stuff. First and foremost, we need to understand what a CEO actually is and what we as a CEO have to do and what we as a CEO have to spend our time on. This is extremely important. It's a very big mental shift that you need to have. You're not just an engineer or an expert. You are a CEO. That means you need to dedicate real time and energy to tasks beyond technical work, finding new clients, planning the business direction, having that vision, managing money, hiring people, firing people, and improving how work actually gets done in the entire business as a whole. You must absolutely schedule time for these quote-unquote boss tasks every single week, treating it as seriously as a client meeting. Because you are not going to be working in your business. You're going to be working on your business as a CEO. Your employees can work in the business, but you work on the business. And this will require you to develop new skills, especially in communication. You need to be able to articulate your vision to your own team, right? Make sure your team is behind you. You need to be able to negotiate with people, and you need to be able to sell your value, okay? Now, understand, this isn't optional for growth. It is literally the core job now that you're a CEO, because you're going to outsource a lot of the other technical work. You're going to hire a lot of people, and each person slowly but surely is going to take over some of these specific aspects. But at the end of the day, your job as a CEO is to be the actual visionary, okay? Plan the direction the company is going to go in and really articulate that vision so everybody knows where the ship is headed. In order to do all of this properly, you need to create SOPs. So don't keep all your processes and knowledge locked in your head. As you figure things out, one step at a time, how you onboard a client, how you perform a key service step, how you handle common objections, you need to document them. Create simple checklists, templates, or I call them standard operating procedures, SOPs. You want to use tools to help you out, CRMs, project management tools, and you need to use them effectively. So don't go out and spend a bunch of money for stuff you don't need, In the very beginning, something as simple as an Airtable or an Excel document or even Notion can be as helpful as you really need to. But at the same time, do not build up technical debt. Do not use Notion, Airtable, Excel sheets, all this stuff just for the sake of using them. If you don't need to use them, do not use them. Minimize technical debt. And this might feel like extra work initially, but understand that it's incredibly resourceful. Okay, this is going to help you out in the long term. This is going to help you out in the long term by a long shot. It's going to ensure that you deliver consistent quality. It will make it vastly easier to train anybody you hire later, even if it's just like a part-time helper. It's going to free up your invaluable time for higher level tasks, and it's going to make your business itself a more valuable, transferable asset. So please do not be the bottleneck. Create SOPs for everything. Now, 3, skill enhancement. Just like how you'd monitor a critical system, you need constant feedback on your business performance, okay? You need to systematically gather input from your clients. How well did your solution deliver the promised outcome? What parts of the process were smooth or clunky? What are their next related challenges, right? The reason we're doing this is to be able to actually improve our existing offerings and services, essentially enhance what it is we're currently doing. And the only way we can enhance what we're currently doing is to upskill, right? And the only way we're going to be able to upskill is to ask our clients what they need and what we need to do better. So use surveys, quick calls, post-project reviews, actively listen to this feedback and use it to improve your service, refine your offer, and identify any new opportunities. And this continuous loop of listening and adapting, iterating and testing, it's essential for long-term success and client satisfaction. After all that, we get to the finances section. So financial mistakes can kill a business faster than almost anything else, really. And there's going to be 2 things we're going to watch out for. Financial mistakes from a business perspective, also from a personal perspective. Personal perspective, the simplest thing is be careful of lifestyle inflation. As frugal of a person as you are, you will experience lifestyle inflation. That's just how things work. You make more money, you want to spend more money, right? So get this right from the very start. Have a little bit of a runway. 6 to 12 month cushion of personal living expenses saved up. Or at least land your clients first, get that money, and then focus on other things. This prevents making decisions out of desperation. What does make decisions out of desperation mean? Well, it could mean onboarding a client you don't want to work with. They end up becoming a headache and causing you a lot of undue stress. It could mean taking out a loan or just doing unfavorable things that you really don't need to do and don't want to be doing. Next up, be frugal, not in the scarcity kind, but rather frugal from a business perspective. Understand that profitability is your shield, so scrutinize all costs. You want to stay as lean as possible and understand that cash flow is oxygen. The point of the business isn't to make money. The point of the business is to serve the customer. Money is what you need to survive, okay? So just like how the point of me living isn't to breathe oxygen, the point of me living is to do all these different things and see what I can accomplish, right? And I breathe oxygen because it's necessary for me, but I don't exist just to breathe oxygen. That's just a byproduct of me existing, okay? I need to do it to live, but it's not my entire existence. Same thing with the business. Point of the business isn't to make money, it's to serve your customer. But money is a necessity for you to be able to serve your customer. Next thing, open up a separate account. So once you're already making a little bit of money, in my opinion, over $10,000 in monthly recurring revenue, open a dedicated business account and credit card and keep finances completely separate. This is really important because especially if you get, let's say, an Amex account, if you're from the US, and you have a lot of costs, you can get crazy amount of points and you can pretty much travel anywhere you want, basically for free. So I very rarely will spend actual cash on traveling or hotels. Most of it just Amex points. Next up, tax and accounting help. So once again, once you're making about $10,000 a month consistently in monthly recurring revenue, talk to an accountant, set up a structure. I personally have an S Corp, and you want to know how you're going to do your taxes. So in an S Corp, you have to pay yourself a W-2, right? There's other bunch of deductions that you can talk about, and just having a bookkeeper is going to be helpful. Now, this isn't financial advice, but please get yourself a good accountant, and it's going to save you a bunch of headache later on. And last but not least, we're going to wrap this up with data-driven decisions. So any decision that you're going to be making cannot be made on instinct alone. Don't get me wrong. Instinct is good. It can sometimes be right. But let's make sure that there's data that is actually backing it up. You must ensure that your choices are guided by solid data and metrics, okay? Data-driven decision-making involves collecting and analyzing relevant information, whether it's customer behavior, market trends, sales performance, or operational inefficiencies or efficiencies, and using that data to inform your next steps. So instead of guessing what your customers want or how your product is performing, you rely on hard evidence to guide your business strategies. This approach minimizes uncertainty and allows you to make informed and confident decisions. And by consistently leveraging data, you can identify patterns, predict future trends, and measure the success of your efforts with precision. This is not only to help improve performance, but also it will increase the likelihood of achieving sustainable growth down the long term. And at the end of the day, data-driven decisions ensure that every single move you make is calculated and aligned with your business goals, keeping you on the right track for continuous improvement. And actually, from the very first day you start to go on your journey, track any and all data. You have a landing page, track how many visitors come there. Any amount of data that you can have, any amount of data that you can track means you can measure it. And if you can measure something, that means you can improve it. Okay? If you're not measuring something, you can't really improve it. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, the entire roadmap for if you are a mid to senior level software engineer, how you can use your leverage to get to exactly where you want to get to, all the while having control of your work, schedule, and impact that you're having on the world around you, while making a lot more money. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you'll enjoy that one right there. Without further ado, thank you so much for watching and have a good one.